Hello and welcome back. My name is Jack B, and as always, thank you for viewing my video. Before I start this episode, I'd like to mention a couple of items. One, the Senate should be allowed to independently vet all suggested cabinet candidates for several reasons. The first is to assure that they would be suitable to the American public and be able to perform their job. And second, to protect the president from nominating an idiot. The other item I would like to note, there are some nominees who are just outright dangerous to the American health and to our government and international security. The top two names on my list are RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard. Need I say more? Now to the topic of this episode. The post-election election antics are proving to have the same potential to be more disrupting and disturbing than the pre-election activities. To start with, I want to acknowledge the fact that the Republicans do not have a mandate. They didn't win by a huge number. They only received 312 electoral votes, and their margin for the popular vote was only 1.6%. That's relatively low. It's close, actually. In contrast, in 2008, Obama won by 365 electoral votes and by 7.2% of the popular vote. And in 2012, Obama won 332 electoral votes and by a margin of 3.9% of the popular vote. I would suggest the Republicans should tone down their self-indulgent, blustering rhetoric because they didn't have a good showing and they just barely won. I'm watching the nominations with interest, the nominations to the cabinet. It appears there is only one requirement for Trump picks, and that's absolute obedience, and that's it. I shouldn't be surprised that he is only concerned with himself and what he wants rather than what the American people need. When it comes to qualifications, I'm more of a traditionalist, and I was hoping that there would be more applicable requirements for the positions Trump is trying to fill for the cabinet. The basic three requirements might be, number one, they should have experience or relevant knowledge in the area they will be leading. Number two, they should have proven leadership characteristics. As we have seen many times, just because someone might be elected official doesn't mean they have leadership skills. Number three, they should acknowledge and address all the threats to our form of government and our way of life in the U.S. They must acknowledge that Putin is as much an enemy to the U.S. as the rest of his autocratic coalition. There are four primary villains that are anti-America: the coalition of communists and dictators, the CCP, the RCP, Iran, and North Korea. When we speak of one, we should be thinking of all three. They all want the same result: the downfall of the U.S. These four nefarious governments are using proxies all over the world to disrupt the U.S. Their minions are like tentacles around the earth. For some unknown reason, Trump, Musk, and many other Republicans admire Putin, and they seem to be using China as a smokescreen to hide Putin. I'm very concerned about this. So far, I see at least 5 people, and counting, that are court jesters nominated to please the king. The Senate should be allowed to vet all the nominees and review all documents, and the FBI should perform all the background checks. I was pleased when Trump appointed Susie Wiles as his chief of staff. I was also pleased when she stated she would only take the position if she could stop the clown cars from entering the White House. But after seeing Trump's nominations, I think she should have also said that a condition of her acceptance was to stop the clown buses from leaving the White House. I've heard people referring to the White House as the new Animal House. While many of the Republican concepts are good, their implementation can be meandering and scattered. Uncontrolled disruption only causes pain to the people. And in some instances, it causes massive financial disruptions to the people. Again, of course, the elected officials who are in the top 10 or 11% of income earners won't suffer. An acronym for the dictatorial governments who are aligned against our government and our way of life might be CRINK, C-R-I-N-K. And that stands for China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea. They are united to oppose the U.S. and our allies globally. Most Americans are living in a bubble with respect to world affairs and our safety. The saddest and most distressful aspect is that some of our elected officials not only speak in favor of Putin, but actually believe Putin is correct, and they would support Putin's actions. These appointed and elected politicians could and will probably cause severe damage to U.S. security. Recent items in the news demonstrating the attitude of the coalition of communists and dictators to the U.S. and our allies are as follow. The CCP operation called Salt Typhoon has been in place for years. It's based upon the stolen U.S. intelligence applications used as a backdoor to spy on U.S. citizens and to gather metadata. They hacked Trump's and other politicians' cell phones. They already have TikTok and backdoors in their applications and all the metadata from those apps on U.S. users. We're not very smart at all. We are giving the UP all the information they need to consume our country. The CCP convicted 45 people for trying to set up a Democratic Party for elections in Hong Kong. You have North Korean troops in the Ukraine. The RCP made false bomb threat calls to mostly Democratic voting locations in Georgia to disrupt the elections. There was a mysterious disruption of 2 important communication cables in the Baltic Sea. The RCP disavows any knowledge of it. The story right now is the cables were accidentally broken by a Chinese ship dragging an anchor. There are 2 facts here. One is this occurred right after Biden gave Ukraine the go-ahead to use the intermediate missiles in Russia. And 2, Russia and China are allies, united to disrupt the democratic governments. Can we draw any conclusions here? The RCP representatives are happy Trump's been elected. Their leaders have been noted to say he could be useful to us. In summary, we need leaders who are knowledgeable, have leadership skills, that will look out for the American public. Leaders that know the enemy. Leaders that are cost conscious and understand the American public have needs. Leaders that we can respect. Leaders that are looked upon as great in the international community. And they should not cause any more harm by dividing groups against groups in the U.S. They should unite all Americans. All Americans have many common needs to be fulfilled by our elected leadership. Safety and welfare come to mind. The federal government ought to be efficient, but they won't be profitable like corporations. The federal government is obligated to provide support and health benefits through Social Security to those who have worked and paid into the Social Security program all their lives. The problem is our representatives see the Social Security as a cash cow, and they spend the funds on other things other than what it was set aside for. The government's borrowed $2.7 trillion from Social Security. Also under the health topic ought to be the study of toxic pollution that is being spread to all Americans. This is probably why so many people have early cancer in children and a lot of autism today, related to pollution, not vaccinations. Instead of providing research and follow-up analysis, we have a potential head of the health group appointee stating that vaccinations cause autism. By the way, the medical profession has no indication of this to be true, quite the opposite. Well, these are my thoughts for today. And again, whether you disagree or not, please verify the information presented. And thank you. And until next time, take care and be safe. Bye.